something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joe Tillman, 20 years since he had his first hair transplant, or his repair hair transplant.
First repair.
Yeah.
Yeah, first repair hair transplant.
Mazel tov.
Yeah, it's... Thank you.
Use it well,
Thank
as we Hebes say.
As the Hebes. Yeah, I was chatting with Dr. Wong, and last night, actually, I said, you do realize tomorrow is the 20th anniversary to the day of our journey together, and my transformation, all this. His first response was, "I'm old. You've really done a great job of maintaining your hair."
He can't believe that it lasted 20. He can't believe it lasted 20 years, for crying out loud.
I know. He's like, man, that contingency plan I made, I can cash in on it now.
Well, actually, that's a very interesting point that I think a lot of people who are just tuning in, who are considering a hair transplant, don't fucking realize. Now, it's not. You're not going to see this in the brochures. You're not going to see it online. You're not going to see it on doctors' websites. But the doctors and all of us who have been, excuse me, it's not COVID, who've been in this game for a long time realize that even though hair transplant surgery is sold as a permanent solution to your hair loss, anyone who knows what hair transplant surgery is about knows that, it may be permanent. It might not be permanent. Half of it can be permanent. Yeah. 10% could be permanent. 30% could be permanent. But do not believe that it's a one and done, and that until you're 90 years old or however long you live, the hair that was moved is going to have the same caliber or is even going to fucking grow anymore. Would you say that's
I thought of a great analogy.
An honest statement.
That's completely true. A very honest statement. And hair transplant surgery is like buying a house. You don't just buy it and expect it to last forever. You have to maintain it. You have to do everything you can to make it look, keep it looking as good as possible. But even with every effort possible, it can still start to, get a few cracks in the paint, and a couple of the hinges start to get a little rusty.
It starts falling apart, man.
So,
like my comb over today. So, I got to get a haircut. Jesus Christ. Anyway.
Well, when that one side is almost touching your eyebrow, it's time to.
Well, I always do that. That's the kind of the way that I like to do it. But sometimes if I like today I rushed it, so maybe I could have pasted it a little higher. But I had to do a show early today. So what did I have to do? I had to train, so I got to work out, and then I got to make sure that I'm on time for Joseph because it's his anniversary.
Well, thank you, Spencer. Thank you. I got to tell you, I'm not getting verklempt. But okay. It is a nice milestone for me to hit because I think about, I really thought a lot about this last night and this morning, what it means to be at this point in my hair restoration journey, because honestly, it never ends. Like you are constantly, if you have a good head on your shoulders, wondering about the future and at least keeping an eye on things. I know a lot of guys, especially today, they think that they can get one hair transplant and it's done. And they completely, change focus. All they know is they're happy.
Sorry, you're going to hear an echo. Sorry about that. My mistake. User error.
That's a big echo.
Yeah.
What was I saying? The
people, one and done.
They enjoy their hair. They're still enjoying it, but they forget about the maintenance aspect, or they forget about the fact that, like you're saying, it's not guaranteed to stay the way it is, for one reason, because a lot of clinics aren't honest about it. But I think about where I started, and then the day before I got to the clinic, when I was actually driving to the hotel from Seattle, because I had to drive across the border, and there's this. It seemed like a long ass drive just to get to Vancouver.
Is this going to be a long story?
Yes.
Okay.
But it seemed long because I was so nervous, and I was so. I don't know. It's like a big part of me that's about to change.
You've already been fucked, though. So, I mean,
yeah,
that's the nerve-wracking thing as well. You've been screwed over twice, and you're like, I'm taking a chance again to hopefully get my life together, or feel more comfortable in my own skin. Mm-hmm. Is this going to work out?
Well, what's interesting. I've talked about this before. Is when you deal with something like this, something that's disfiguring, something that makes you stand out in a crowd, literally, as having some sort of failed surgical procedure, whatever it is, rhinoplasty, you name it. After 9 years, you start to learn how to live with it.
Yeah.
And it becomes a part of you. And so driving up to Vancouver, the day before my first repair surgery, it hit me that it wasn't going to be there anymore. And I've talked about how it was almost like the most reliable thing in my life at the time. It's like anything else can change, but my shitty hair will never change. Like right. I started to rely on it, for better, for worse. I knew it would always be there. And then I realized, wow, it's about to change. And it really affected me. Like I had to pull over from driving because it was hitting me so hard that it was about to change. And I wasn't sure it was for the best.
Are you crying?
No, I almost, no, I'm not crying. I was then. But it was really impactful. And then to see the work being done during surgery, when I got up to go to the washroom and I was looking in the mirror, that changed everything. I knew. And the elation I felt was like, it's one of the few things that you feel in your life. And that's when I started documenting. I came out, and before I got back in the chair, I started taking pictures of the grafts being dissected and all that stuff. And that's what really started my journey to being this, still today, the most documented hair transplant patient out there.
TM.
Where, TM, exactly. So it's a big deal to me. It wasn't at first. I was like, wow, it's been 20 years. And I started thinking about it. It's like, wow, it's been 20 years since this whole crazy journey started. Not just my hair restoration journey, but working for 11 years eventually.
Now, does that mean that I've known you for 20 years?
Hassan. Not quite, because we first started talking maybe around 2005. So it's like 17 years.
Jesus.
Wow.
Well, not talking, but I mean, like, did we communicate online at all? Did you like pick up the phone like Hassan and Wong when I tried to call at some point?
Maybe.
You got all nervous when it was me on the phone.
And I was like, "Who's this Spencer guy?"
Spencer
he
who?
acts like I should know who he is.
Spencer who?
Spencer who?
That's what I always get. Yeah, it's Spencer Kobren calling. Who? What's your last name again? Can you spell that for me? Fucking industry, man.
But so I just wanted to mark this day because kudos to Dr. Wong. Like every procedure he did for me most of them were just top notch. There was a need for scar revision, but the scar revision itself was amazing. And he doesn't get nearly as much credit in this industry that I feel he deserves. And so I want to take this opportunity to also thank him for the wonderful work that he's done on me over the years.
Well, he's got to get on, and that's very nice of you, but he's got to get his ass on Instagram, yo. That's who gets the credit. You got to be TikToking.
That's true.
Otherwise, you're shit, sadly.
I can see him doing some TikToking, and it would actually be really popular. If he would just do some TikToking, like him himself, not someone for him.
Yeah. That is, oh my God. Dude, this is 1983.
I know. Anyway. That's why it gets even more views.
Yeah. Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. This is the Hair Loss Show, The Bald Truth. I am the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss. Joe Tillman just told you his life story. He's the original hair transplant mentor.
My life story.
And he's been in this industry for a very long time. We know where all the bodies are buried. We are not here to sell you anything. If you are considering hair transplant surgery, for instance, remember surgery is always a last resort. While I am the founder of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, the organization was created in an attempt to separate, especially back in the day, the doctors who were performing state-of-the-art hair transplant surgery from all the rest. Now, it was a lot easier back then, because when I wrote the original Bald Truth, there were only 11 doctors. Okay? ISHRS was already in existence. Amazing. There were only 11 physicians who were performing at the time follicular unit transplantation using stereo microscopic dissection, one of those being Bobby Limmer. And the rest of the industry was just hacking and tracking. That's it. Hacking and hiding.
Hacking and hiding.
Hacking and weaving. Hacking and not taking your phone calls. Getting them in, churning them out, hoping for the best. Oh, you're unhappy with this one? Let's do another surgery. This is what it is. This is the technology we have. That's what it was in 1998. However, as things have devolved, or initially evolved and now devolved, it's much more difficult. You know, I had a complaint that I fielded yesterday, actually, and I normally don't do this with people who contact me directly, because I get so many people who contact me directly, but this was a very disturbing situation to me. And all I can tell you is that, you know, if you're a member of the IHRS and all of a sudden you change your staff or change your business model or decide that you need to move in a direction that you normally or you didn't in the past when you were accepted to be a part of the organization, that's going to be looked at and that's going to be frowned upon. And we were talking about people's lives here. So I just want to say that all complaints are seriously adjudicated to the best of our ability. Now, if it's a one-off, you know, and it's not a consistent thing, there's nothing you can do about that. The reality is that this is cosmetic surgery. Shit happens. Complications arise. Sadly, sometimes there are new people who are on staff that will fuck you up or make mistakes, I should say. That's a little more politically correct.
A little, yes.
But you have to be 100% all in on knowing the entire scope and possible pitfalls. And if you are deciding or basing your choice to go to a surgeon on price, even if they are in the IHRS or even if they are part of, and I hope you're okay with this, you know, Joe's hair transplant mentor, outstanding doctors of life, you're making a mistake, because we are provided with an overall look of what these physicians and their staff are doing within a given period of time. And we then are able to take a look and see if there are any complaints or, you know, how many happy patients, people who contact us, whatever it is, through our organization and through Joe's site. Mm-hmm. We're not in the room. And I think that's so important that people understand that. There's no medical society, the AMA, nobody is out actually sitting there with a camera in the physician's facility knowing exactly what's going on behind closed doors every second of the day. So I just want people to understand this. When you are signing on that dotted line, you need to know everything you can about every person who is working on your body.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And one of the, was it Dmitry Tarasov in the chat room, he says to you, I know of 2 IHRS doctors that have, where he's seen very bad results from both of them. Let me tell you something. I have seen bad results from every single doctor that's considered to be a great doctor.
Absolutely.
From my own doctors, I've seen bad results. I've seen bad results from IHRS, ISHRS, ABHRS, you name it. They've all had bad outcomes, and a lot of them have contacted me or contacted Spencer, or they've been online publicly talking about their cases, and it means absolutely nothing. Because all that does is show you that none of these top docs are infallible, that they're superhuman and do not make mistakes, or that their staff do not make mistakes. That is one of the biggest cons out there, especially when you ask, like if any of you actually have the wherewithal to ask a clinic, well, how many unhappy patients have you had this past year or in the past 5 years? They'll all tell you, well, past year, maybe 100%. We've had the odd few that, maybe aren't happy with, the overall density, and we do another surgery and then they're happy. They gloss it over. But every one of these clinics that you've heard of, that you've done research on, because there's a large body of evidence of their results out there, or maybe not so much, and you're still able to look at some of what they've done in the past, they've all had results where the patient thinks that they've been actually fucked up. It's not just a little bit of lack of density. Or there are cases that I've looked at, I'm like, man, you guys made a mistake. That you shouldn't have done that. Better judgment would have been ideal for this case.
And I've seen cases where, like, holy shit, did you hire a new tech? What's going on? Look at the donor of this guy. Yeah. And I'm talking about for people who are known, guys who are out there who everyone believes are getting the best possible results consistently. The people that are posting all their wonderful results on these networks and forums and on Instagram and Facebook. It is a case. Sadly, it's a case-by-case basis, and you have to work with whoever has the most consistent results. You got to give people a place to start. Then it's your choice, once you find that place to start to do your research, to whittle it down to who you think. Maybe you haven't seen any unhappy patients. Then go to them. Yeah. That's just the way that it is. Because you know what would happen otherwise? There would be maybe, I don't even think there would be one doctor in any society that could be listed.
Yeah. Of course.
They
all screw up at some point.
Everybody that's been on this show, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Dimitri follows up. He goes, yes, I know, Joe. Remember you saying that no doctor hasn't messed up at least one patient, but with these 2 bad results that seem to be quite frequent recently. 2 isn't frequent. And if it's 2 different doctors, it's 1 each. And even if it is 1 doctor, that's still, it doesn't mean anything for 2 reasons. 1, context, like you've seen it, great. I've not. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not doubting you. But the second is, like, what's the actual issue? I don't, what's going on?
And I also want to make it clear that, I am considering, I'm looking at the chat right now. These are both Turkish doctors. I am, like, really taking a closer look at and for those Turkish doctors out there that are highly respected, please take this in the spirit that it's meant. There just seems to be such a disparity among results, even in some cases in the same clinic, that I'm starting to see more of a pattern, at least in Turkey, and I got to tell you, in India as well. Now, this isn't xenophobic. I'm not allowed to say this stuff. This just happens to be the reality that we are seeing. And I don't know if it's because of COVID. I don't know if it's because, people are finding it more difficult to find technicians, or they're training younger people or newer people. And, so there are changes within the infrastructure of their practices. I'm not seeing it as much here in the U.S., and I'm not seeing it as much in Europe as I am seeing it in India, for instance, and in Turkey, which I know is partly in Europe. But, so that's the reality. And it's something that I have to really, take a closer look at Joe and I have spoken about this before. And look, if it were me, and I'm telling you this right now, if I were considering hair transplant surgery, telling a family member to consider hair transplant surgery, first of all, I wouldn't travel that far. I have a lot of reasons for that. There's nothing wrong with doing it. But, and you can get fucked up anywhere. But to me, if you're going to get fucked up, it's better to get fucked up close to home. So at least you could deal with possible, going back to the office, dealing with complications firsthand, having a better, not dealing with, WhatsApp and, people who may have trouble communicating with you and all that shit that you got to deal with when you travel overseas for a hair transplant. Now, it's a very honest thing for me to say and a very straightforward thing for me to say. And it's not great for those who are in my organization who are overseas. They don't want to hear that. But you know what? They signed up knowing that I'm going to go out there and tell the truth.
100%.
So anyway.
100%. Well said.
Let's take a phone call.
Okay.
I'm going to have to spray my hair again in a second. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey, caller. I hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi. I wanted to call and first say hi. My name is Carl. I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida area.
Carl.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah. Hi. How you doing? First thing I wanted to say is I'm kind of a new listener, but I discovered Joe and the Hair Club mentor site, and
Joe, wait a second. Hold on for 1 second. Joe, you're part of the Hair Club now?
Shit.
No,
Secret's out.
The
Secret's out.
Site.
I knew you were wearing, man.
I'm not just a member. I'm also a member.
Yeah. Sorry. Well,
sorry, caller. Go ahead.
I found your web. No problem. I found your website, and I wanted to thank you personally for what you do and for the doctors you put on there. I actually went to Dr. Aaron Nussbaum and just had my transplant a week ago, and it was
good for you.
Awesome. Oh, it was an awesome experience. It was the best thing I have done. I'm so happy with them and the whole experience. It was just really great. So you know, I just I want to thank you for what you're doing there and who you're posting on there, because it gave me a lot of confidence. I remember first looking into this back when I got a VHS tape from Bosley, so it goes way, way back. And
welcome to the club, man. I was almost lured into that shit.
Yeah. So, but I never followed up with it, other than saying, "Boy, one of these days I'd love to try it." But you know, you never know where to go, and the resources that are online are so difficult to understand, and whether you know what you can trust. And I never found you guys before, so never realized what was a good source. But then when I found Joe's site and did some investigation, and then reviewed, Dr. Nussbaum, I went and saw him last year, and then set him an appointment. And like I said, just went through the FUT procedure last week. 2281 grafts. It was awesome. I mean, it was like, you go in apprehensive when you first do an experience like that, because you, like you were just saying, you never know what results you'll get where you go. But Dr. Nussbaum is awesome, amazing. His staff is fantastic. Every person in the office is so great.
Oh, you want to see Aaron?
I just can't.
Aaron or Bernie?
Yeah,
Aaron. I thought Aaron.
Yeah. He's a good kid. I want to say kid. He's not a kid. He's a grown man, but I guess he's young to me. But he's really a caring, just like his dad. You know, these are good people. So hard to find in this industry. Like, I'm not just talking about skill, and there's a lot of skilled doctors out there, but great bedside manner, caring person, really takes interest in their patients. It's very difficult to find.
The rest of the team is amazing as well. Like the women that he has who work with the grafts and the entire team who like separate them, I guess, and go through that whole process. Everyone is so skilled and so good at what they do. I was just like, I'm thrilled with the experience and the results so far. And obviously, it's brand new, and I'm fresh out of the gate with this. But
yeah, did you have no idea? You could be calling us back in a month crying. So I'm just kidding. No, you're going to be.
Well, I understand.
It's unlikely. Let's put it this way. You were in good hands, and I mean, I have to say, since Aaron has been part of what we do, and his dad has been a part of it for over 20 years. I'm not going to say there have been no complaints over the last 20 years, but they've been just mostly about perception or feeling of lack of density over the years. But I mean, I haven't had anything like that in probably about a decade. So I mean, you're in good hands. Yeah,
and I have a couple of other questions regarding going forward because I'm 67, so and I've never been on Rogaine or Finasteride or anything like that, but and I am on testosterone therapy. So I've been on that for 30 plus years for a topical, and
30 plus years.
Testicular cancer times 2. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's no big deal, you kind of live with it. and right the alternative of being dead is a lot worse than that. So,
sure.
Of course. It's, So anyway.
Well, we really don't know that, right? But
maybe we don't.
Just guess.
I get it, though.
Just guesswork.
I'm glad you made it.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. But anyway, the question I have about the 1 milligram generic versus, brand name, and also just is there a difference? I know last week I think I heard you say if you can afford it, take the name brand, but since it's the same chemically, does it matter?
Every generic is slightly different. You can. There's a couple of books. There's one well-known book on the subject, which I forgot the title of. Maybe Joe can find it. But you can look up articles. There was a recent article that I read. I think it was on. I think it's through Harvard. There was a study done in 2017 through a well-known paper, which, God almighty, I'm getting old. Long story short, it was for a cardiovascular drug, and it was really, they did a comparison between the brand name and the generic that they were using at this specific hospital, and they found that those who were on the genetics. Let me start again.
Generic.
Those who were on the generic were having significant increase incidence of side effects, and they didn't seem to be getting the same results as far as helping with their condition. So and this was just one particular generic. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen with any generic, but the reason they did that, it was just to see if there was some sort of differential or difference. Now, we're talking about heart patients, so this is a little bit more serious, but we've seen it in the hair loss population.
Yeah.
So to me, as long as this drug is still on the market, and you have the option and you can spend the money, then why not go for brand? Now, there are certain generics that if you do well on it, great. Just make sure you're somehow are on the same generic. And the only way to do that is every time you get that prescription, make sure that the pill is exactly the same. And also know where it's manufactured.
I made some calls on that, and a lot of the sources, when you, if you call Costco or you call Publix or wherever you might call, they tell you, well, it's coming from this one manufacturer, and it's they make a contract for a year, and it's the best price, whatever they get. And it could change, and I understand that the fillers and binders in there may or may not have an effect. So does it make sense to try the generic, and then if it doesn't seem to work, go to the
now,
brand,
are you just being cheap?
No, I'm okay to spend the, but if it's kind of if it doesn't matter,
it never hurts to save money if it's just as good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
But the problem is even with the same, like it depends. There's so many manufacturers out there of generic medications that, like the way I feel about it is, even if I'm on a generic that I know works, I hope that they're still using the same standards for their product 5 years from now. I think the better manufacturers are. I mean, we hope they are. But in general, like Spencer and I have both been the same way. We're brand whores. It's like, well, all these generics are out there to try and give you an alternative to the original. Well, if they were the same price, which one would you go with? The original or the generic? The original every time. Like there's no reason to take a generic except for saving money. It's not to get something better, or and the idea is that you're getting something just as good, but you just understood yourself from your own research by asking your pharmacies. It's not always the same. They will change it without letting you know. So it is dependent upon your own awareness to look at that box every time you get your renewed prescription. Is it the same box that you got the previous time, and you're having good results with it? If it's different, then you need to talk to your pharmacist and say, or your pharmacist and say, what gives, what's going on.
And also, is the generic
the one I was on?
Where's generic from? Is it is it manufactured in India, or in some cases now it's being manufactured in China? And we have found, and again, this is not being xenophobic, you can't just speak the truth anymore, but we have found, or it's been noted in literature, that sometimes in certain laboratories, some of these drugs or the fillers can be tainted. What does that mean? They can be, cause people to have, different types of side effects. Some of them have caused some illnesses. You just don't know. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. But to me, you want to have some sort of consistency, and you want to make sure that the safety profile is right on. Now, you're thinking to yourself, well, I mean, CVS isn't going to sign a contract with a company that is sketchy. Bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not the way the world works.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. They're driven by dollars, and they're going to go with whoever they find is most economical for them to make the most profit. So. And I'm cool with going with the Merck product, so that works for me.
And I don't even think Merck is making it anymore. I think Merck has a subsidiary now. It's the same drug, though. What is it called, Joe? Do you remember that? This is like the old man podcast, because, dude, you got me up. You got me up too early. Once I do my workout, if I don't take my caffeine after my workout, I can't think. But it starts with an O. I actually just got my prescription filled for ProScar. And even though I know intellectually that it's the same company, I still had anxiety when I looked at the bottle. The bottle looks exactly the same, but it no longer says Merck on it. And the pill is exactly the same. It's manufactured actually in the same plant, but they decided to put their so-called lifestyle drugs under a different brand. So yeah,
right. I know that same feeling. Like when I went from, I was on androgel for the longest time, and then it actually stopped being functional and working, and so I ended up going to Protesta, which is a different topical, and then they kicked me to the generic, and that freaked me out. But the generic worked great, and it continues to work great. So
yeah, and generic. Listen, the majority of people who are on Finasteride are on generics. That's the reality. Now, there are plenty of people.
Like a topical, and it's a topical versus a ingested and consumed. So I think that might have some difference to.
Dude, if you're taking if you're using a topical testosterone, the only reason your testosterone levels are being normalized is because it's become systemic. It's going through your bloodstream. So even if you whether you injected it or had it topically, it's still affecting your entire hormonal system.
Yeah, I used to have to do the injections, which sucked. That's like roller coaster.
Well, I'm thinking about it for different reasons, because I'm getting old, and I'm just like, man, I would love to do that. I would, I know guys who are doing it, and they're, some guys have excellent results. Some guys actually start to lose their hair. A lot of guys actually start to lose their hair when they get on TRT therapy. But, you know, I know a doctor who's like, well, you know, we can kind of microdose you and you don't want to keep your levels too high, but just get your levels to where, you know, you're starting to notice a shift in your, you know, tiredness or, you know, in your muscle growth, shit like that. I don't know, man. I just don't know if I can do it. I've saved too much hair to fuck around with it. And actually, and while Joe is looking this up, there's a guy in the chat room who said something interesting. Let me see if I can find this. To go off topic for a second. Now I can't find it. But it was something to the effect of Spencer has made millions in the hair loss industry, and he has a full head of hair. That's like a gangster rapper who grew up in Beverly Hills, which is kind of funny. but here's the reality. If you're going to a fucking personal trainer, I've always said this, even in my radio program years ago, you don't want to go to the guy who is fucking out of shape, who can't breathe, who doesn't have any fucking muscle mass, and him telling you what you need to do to try to get yourself in shape. Now, I do not have a full head of hair. While I appreciate the fact that you believe that I have a full head of hair, this is a sham. I have enough hair to pull off the old Chambui, which I feel very fortunate about. But full head of hair, it is not. So I go on that tangent because I'm considering TRT therapy, and I don't do it just because I don't want to take that chance. All right, so apparently Joe can't find the information out. But
I can't.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But Spencer, like if you talk to an endocrinologist, they probably can, you know, work, you know, dial you in, like you said, really specifically to your desires. I think, you know, without having too much impact. I know people abuse it, you know, this kind of, you know, there's a controlled substance and people, you know, are abusive of this kind of med.
Sure.
But, you know, you can kind of meter it and control it and control your own dosage. So.
Well, you know, I am considering it. Maybe I'll wait till I'm about 60, but I do notice, like, I still get a good pump when I work out, but it's not the same when I wake up in the morning. You know, the muscle mass is there, but it's just a little less than it was, you know, whatever, 10 years ago. And I got to work harder, and it takes me a little longer to, you know, get motivated to do that work.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Organon.
Or Jesus, you finally found it. Yeah.
Jesus,
so,
it's not easy to find.
So Organon is a subsidiary now of Merck, and.
Oh, okay.
So when you get your generic, you can probably see you're here in. You said you're in West Hollywood. You're in West Palm Beach area. Where are you?
Palm Beach.
Yeah, I'm down in West Palm Beach. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'm going to contact, you know, Dr. Nussbaum's office. I'll ask her for the name brand description and have them call in. So I'll start with that and then go from there. But you know, it just was a really cool experience. I'm so glad I came across you guys. And Joe, thank you again for finding the information on you know, all those doctors, because you know, you wanted, like you just said, staying close at home is important, I think, and you know, it made me comfortable knowing that it was a resource close, and you know, even though the drive to Miami is awful, but
well, listen, I'm happy for you. I think you're going to do very well. You're in a great age, actually, to have a hair transplant and to recognize the entire scope, possible pitfalls. I'm sure that you're not looking for a 20-year-old head of hair. So I think you're going to be very happy.
Right.
And don't forget to wish Joe a happy anniversary, all right?
Yes, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. Joe, congratulations. I really appreciate your journey.
Thank you.
And all that you share about yourself, because that's really helpful for everybody who's into this whole thing. And, you know,
well,
like
I'm
I
glad
was
it's relatable.
living with it forever. Yeah. But, you know, it's nice that you kind of help motivate people who want to get off ground zero there.
All right, man. Well, listen, Carl, right?
Thank you.
Yes.
Carl, thank you for the call. We really appreciate your patronage. And, you know, if you have any questions during this process, feel free to call back.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I definitely will. Thanks for taking the call, and I appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care, you guys.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Take care, Carl.
Now I want to do TRT. Now, as soon as I hear about it, it's like I want to get on it.
It's always been tempting to me. Someone in the chat room said happy anniversary on your website, and I was thinking, no, this isn't my website. It's about my first repair hair transplant. But then I realized, well, actually, like the next couple of days from now will be 20 years because I did start documenting. Actually, before then, because I was documenting leading up to the surgery. So it's been 20 years and a few days. So yeah, I guess that makes sense too.
It does.
So many things.
And Rob Hellner says that I'm the Donald Trump of billionaire of the Hair Loss Society. And you know what? It is a Trump the early years situation going on. What am I going to do? Let's take a phone call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey,
Hi,
caller.
This is Sam from Chicago.
Say that again?
Can you hear me? Sam from Chicago.
You kind of sound like you're underwater. Are you on your Bluetooth?
I am on my AirPods, Apple AirPods.
All right. So can you kind of maybe just speak into your phone?
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Much
AirPods.
better. Okay.
AirPods. I'm sorry, Apple. AirPods suck.
Yeah, I got to probably need to talk to Apple.
Yes. I'm gonna get on the phone right now. So as soon as we're done with this show.
I'll get him on hold.
So what's up, man?
What's up, man? What can I help you with?
So if you guys remember, I talked to a few weeks ago and about getting a hair transplant surgery from Chicago, and I contacted Dr. Connier and Dr. Panine and had a interviews kind of appointment scheduled with the Minnesota clinic. I forgot the Minneapolis clinic with Dr. Shapiro. So just wanted to give you an update that Dr. Shapiro seems like they are 12 months booked solid till next year. So they can't do any surgery right now, and my only option is Dr. Panine at this time. And
well, it's not a bad option.
Right. No, I think I really like Dr. Panine. And I have contacted a few of his patients. Everybody seems to be having really good, positive, feedback.
Well,
for him.
You contacted his patients, and they all had positive experience. Of course, they did. Did he give you the numbers of these patients?
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, Dr. Panine is great. He really is. But this is for everybody else out there. You know, when someone gives you a list of patients to call, it's because they're all fucking happy. They're not going to give you the list of anybody on the list who's going to be unhappy. But with that said, it's still important to try to speak to these guys, ask them the right questions so you can kind of gauge their experience. You know, from everything from how were the texts, were you comfortable from the beginning to the end? What was the consultation like? Things like that. But yeah, you're not going to get any phone numbers from anybody who is not happy with the results.
Right. Yes. So I'll be probably going, with Dr. Panine. I already scheduled my HT head transplant surgery with him on June 2nd.
Okay.
So hopefully everything goes well. I did have a question for you guys. Did you guys hear about Matthew McConaughey's story in the news?
The recent story, yeah.
The recent one.
The recent one where there's a claim that there was some physician who claimed to have done his hair transplant.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do you want to know who we think it was? Is that your question?
No.
Okay.
No, he kind of came, out that he didn't actually have any hair transplant surgery.
Yeah.
It's the topical that he's using that kind of regrew all of his hair.
Right.
Which seems a little bit suspicious, right? So, do you guys know any such topical which does that?
No.
Well, let me ask you something. So
I know the company though. Go ahead.
So he named the product, right?
He didn't name it in this article.
He did not? Okay.
In this article, no.
Have you done any research on this topic on Matthew McConaughey beyond this latest piece of discussion?
No, I think that's the only thing I kind of read. A couple of news in the
Okay, so
media.
dig a little deeper, and what you'll find that he was on a talk show and he actually mentioned the name of a product that he claims that he's using. He may or may not be using it. I don't know, but that's what he said. So I think that the logical thing to do, considering that this interview was maybe 10 years, 15 years ago, is to look for other people talking about their experiences, whether it was as dramatic as Matthew McConaughey's or not. Because his turnaround, when you look at his earlier images from the late 1990s and early 2000s, he had a really prominent recession into the temples where he was a Norwood 3. In fact, he was even developing a forelock that was almost isolated. Like it was getting a little thin behind it. But I think it's logical when one celebrity comes out and makes a claim like that his dramatic turnaround was from one product. You should look to see if there are 5 other people that can show the same kind of turnaround. 10, 2, like it needs to be backed up. Just because one person 15 years ago said he had such a great turnaround doesn't mean he did. Furthermore, I did a video on this subject about 4 years ago where I break it down in depth.
Break it down, Jim.
And I agree, he didn't have a hair transplant. And I prove it in this in this video where I'm showing the progression of his hair and then how it reverted back to its original state when he was sitting, it was in 2010, I think. He was sitting in the hospital room with his girlfriend, now wife, on the day of the birth of his first kid, and his hair is kind of wet, kind of sweaty or greasy or something like that.
He's bald
and
again.
You can see that recession again. He's suddenly bald again. So what the hell's going on? I'm convinced, I think that proves that, number one, it's not surgery, and because it went back to its great state in these other photos after the fact and ever since, I can only deduce that it's a hairpiece. A very good hairpiece.
Well, and to make it even more simple for you, we wouldn't be on the air if this product worked the way that it claimed to work. This is a product that it's a company that's based here in Los Angeles. They had an office, and I'm not sure if they still do, in the Cedars-Sinai Medical Building. Doesn't mean, and they kind of promoted that fact, and basically it was just retail space. They promoted that fact as though it was some sort of scientific thing, and there were doctors involved, and there was a scientific process. They promoted a lot of what they were doing on a big talk station here, 97.1 FM, which was the radio station I was on. And a lot of people, they've been around for a long time. They do their thing, just like a lot of other companies have been around for a long time. But even if the product had a 50% success rate, this would be a different world. A completely different world.
Yeah.
Agree. Yeah. If I have to spend like $500 a month, I would probably get that one because I don't have to have a hair transplant, right? So
let me tell you something. If there was a product like that was not a medication, and that I had to spend $1,000 a month for, even if I was just working a regular job, I'd take the fucking bus and I would spend that $1,000 a month to keep my hair.
Right. But there is no such product. So I guess I was kind of curious, what magical topical he's using that is giving him such a great results without the hair transplant.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying that he's lying. I have no fucking idea. Maybe for him, for whatever reason, there was some sort of a placebo effect, and he put the shit in his hair and was like, holy shit, or there was some sort of a temporary phenomenon happening with his hair, and it kind of reversed itself, and so he continues to use his product, or whatever. Maybe in his mind it really did the job. So this isn't to say that Matthew McConaughey is bullshitting anybody. I don't think that. I honestly don't think that he is. He seems kind of really like this is his reality. Joe thinks otherwise.
But Joe thinks
otherwise. Joe thinks he's a bullshit artist.
I think I love the guy's performances on screen, and I like the way he thinks, but I think he's bullshitting on this one. And Jules in the chat room says Matthew McConaughey's hair was thinner in those pictures, not receded. Wrong. That doesn't mean he didn't have a hair transplant. He most definitely had a hair transplant, multiple hair transplants over the course of several years. I'd like for Jules to present one shred of evidence that he's had multiple, much less one hair transplant.
And this is why
it's not out there.
This is why the internet is just such a mess, man. I got to tell you, it's such a.
I've read people claiming online that a particular doctor in the Midwest actually did the procedure, and I'm like, how would you even know this? If any doctor were to disclose that, that would be a violation of doctor-patient confidentiality, which is a violation of HIPAA rules.
And that's why
they could get in serious trouble.
And that's why Matthew McConaughey was pissed in this article, because apparently there's some doctor bullshitting patients claiming that he performed the hair transplant, or a hair transplant, at least one, on Matthew McConaughey. That's why he was pissed. But I have known doctors. There's a specific doctor in New York who would tell everybody what celebrities he performed surgery on. One celebrity was Nicolas Cage, and I was like, you might not want to promote that one, dude.
You might not want to brag about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So listen, man, we wish you the best of luck with Dr. Panine. I think you made a good choice. You did your research. Now just fingers crossed, everything works out. And, you let us know how it goes. He's a good guy. He has a really good staff. He's been doing this for a long time.
No, I appreciate that. So I did have another question on this related.
Always another question. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I always kind of wanted to go to eugenics in India to get the procedure done, because I heard a lot of good things from them. So I will be visiting my, home back, in India. I'm from India, that in particular region. So I'm thinking by that time, in November, December, I will be 6 months into the hair transplant. So I'll know some of the results from Dr. Panine's. I do need to get some, crown work done as well. And I'm going to be there for at least 3 weeks at minimum. So does it sound like a good idea to get some FUE work done from Dr. over there in eugenics clinic?
I mean, it's going to be a little early, but I mean, it's possible. But you just know that. I mean, it's not like eugenics is charging, especially if you're going to go to one of the doctors who are IHS members or who work with Joe, that you're going to be getting any type of a significant discount on the pricing. It's pretty close to American pricing, if not the same.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty yeah. I think the pricing is pretty kind of similar to the U.S. pricing, so maybe competitive, I would say. But I think that's not really. I think that just visiting back home and then getting that procedure done is a lot of headache. So I was thinking, since I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there for this kind of 3-4 week period. I'll just get some of the crown work done. But then, with Dr. Panine, I'm thinking FUT done. And I was hoping that I will get the second FUT done after I see the results from the first one to fill up any crown. And then after that, I go back to FUE, because I do have a limited kind of, donor zone. So just a bit confused about that what's the best strategy here?
Well, if you're starting off with FUE, I would actually question the idea of going in at 6 months, because when you're dealing with a strip surgery, it's healed. You're fine at 6 months usually, and the issue is one of whether or not the grafts that have been placed have all come in have all started to break ground and grow. Because the danger is some of them haven't, and when you're making your new incisions on the second round, you might destroy those that haven't actually started to sprout. But in this case, you're talking about doing a completely different area. You could do a second FUT in that area, and it shouldn't cause any damage to the previous work. But you're talking about doing, if it was 2 FUEs in a row, that's where I'd have a question, because the donor doesn't always fully recover, because some of the donor hair can go into a shock effect, and the doctor might not see them, and it might cause some damage to those donor hairs. But if you have a strip first and then do an FUE, it should be okay. But it all depends on your case. You said you got a limited donor, so if you're having a strip first, then it becomes an issue of will the FUE extractions, once everything's healed, thin the donor to the point where that donor scar will be visible. So it depends on how the donor scar heals, and then it depends on the extraction density, or the density of extractions, and the subsequent FUE surgery.
Okay, got it. So I think it's best probably to wait at this time, because I don't think Eugenics does the FUT surgery. It doesn't, right?
No, they do not.
They're all FUE.
Just FUE.
And a lot of the newer clinics, I mean, no, they're not that new. A lot of the clinics that are trying to be exceptionally competitive in this market have abandoned FUT, which I think is a mistake. Joe?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Huh? I
Yeah.
got distracted by something in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big mistake. I really believe in order for any clinic to be a well-rounded clinic, to be able to offer patients really what is in their best interest, they need to be able to produce great FUT and great FUE results. Or at the very least say, okay, I know a doctor who, at least refer you to a doctor who can do FUT if they're unwilling to do it.
Yeah, if the case calls for it, yeah, that would be preferable. But really, how many patients are going to, or how many clinics are going to send a patient away for a different procedure?
They're not going
unless
to.
It's
That's the whole fucking point. That's why I'm telling you.
I've seen a few do it simply for 2 reasons. One, because it was too tough with the procedure that they offered, or they didn't want anything to do with the patient to begin with.
Yes, well, that's
they're just making an excuse to get rid of them.
But that's the whole thing. I think that the way that the industry is evolving, and I always say evolving, devolving, is to remove FUT, traditional harvesting from their toolbox is a tremendous disservice to the entire field and to the specialty of surgical hair restoration. And I think that there are doctors out there that will disagree with that. I think John Cole is probably one of them, who does great work, and some other guys. But I call bullshit on all of that, to be honest. There are people like our caller who will probably benefit more from having at least one FUT. All right, man. Well, I'm not going to rant anymore. We're going to take some calls.
Yeah. No, definitely. Thanks. I think that's really helps me to kind of, in a way that it clarifies the things for me. So that's always helpful to get these answers.
All right, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You got it. Good luck with everything. Let us know how it goes.
All right. Thank
you. Take care. Bye-bye. Phone number is 888-659-3727. And I think John actually, he knows my feelings on this. He doesn't agree with them. I'm not a doctor. What the fuck do I know? But he knows that I voice this opinion. I just think that, it's not a situation where, if there's a nail, what is it? If there's a nail, everything's a hammer, or if you have a hammer, everything's a nail. I think that's it.
Something like that.
So
I want to throw this picture up.
Here we go. He's got to prove his point.
I do, because Jules is coming back saying that the picture looks doesn't look anything like his mugshot from 1997.
I'll be right back.
Wrong.
Talk a little bit. Speak about it.
Okay. So, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is, I don't remember the year, but this is, I think, 2010. I wish you could see my pointer. But up in the corners, you can see how far the recession goes up into the center of his scalp behind his forelock. And it's actually less wet or less greasy than I remembered, but I think this is clear. Like, you can see scalp all the way through there, yet in all of his other images, which all of these supposedly candid photos that you see, not just him, but like of high A-level celebrities, they're all completely crafted. Like there are people behind the camera you don't see. There are lights or there are reflectors, makeup, and they take these shots multiple times and find the one that looks best, which all photographers do. You don't just take one photo. But this is what I'm talking about. And there's no evidence of like...
In all fairness, when my hair is greasy and wet, even in the back, and I have, you would say I have really good donor. I've been noticing lately that it's like underneath, it's thinner than it used to be in the nape and stuff like that. Or I'm noticing it more, like I took a closer look. And in general, all over, when my hair is wet or wet-ish, it's not looking good. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Oh, no, I get it. What's going on with my sound? There we go. 2 microphones at once. Yeah, no, I get it. But I think that if he's had several hair transplants, we'd see it in this photo. And there's no evidence of any, like, and I don't mean that the work is so good. I mean, there's nothing there in the corner.
Look, I'm just being nice because just in case he ever wants me to be on a podcast or something, I figured you could take the fall for this one.
I'd be happy to because maybe he'll call me about it. I'd love to talk to him.
That's right. He's like, that fucker Tillman, man. All right, let's take the call.
Hey, Tillman. That's not very cool, man.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Call, you're on the air. Hey.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Matthew, is that you?
Hey, this is Dario calling from Atlanta.
Barry from Atlanta. Welcome, man.
Hello, Barry.
Originally from Venezuela.
Oh, wow.
I've been living in Atlanta for 13 years.
Wow. So you really moved to a free place. Good for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Hey, I wanted to ask you guys because I'm scheduled to have surgery in a month in Dominican Republic with Dr. Alba Reyes.
Okay. Good for you.
And I found her through your website. So I'm 35, and I've been dealing with hair loss since I was 25. And I've done consults with Dr. Ken Anderson, John Cole, and just because of the price, and I decided to go to Dominican Republic and have it there. Is their quality of their work comparable for between doctors in the U.S. and kind of overseas?
I think that's a really smart question to ask. And I can tell you that from everything that we know and that I've seen, and she's a part of our organization. She has consistently good work, and she has been really involved in education and in the societies for quite a long time. And I say, based on everything I've seen, it's comparable, and in many cases, it's better. Joe, what do you think?
Really?
I think that Dr. Alba Reyes is one of the
hidden gems.
I didn't want to use that one, it's so cliche, but yeah, like she's a hidden gem. I've been talking to them for quite a while, and they're good people, and I like her work ethic, and ultimately, I like the results. And what I like about her is she's got, because of where she is, she's got a lot of her patients are what's classified as mulatto, which is I guess you could say African mix in with the local population from past couple hundred years, and so there's a lot of variety to the type of hair that she has to work with, and she's really good at it. Like I think having that kind of variation in the local population and the population and outside that flies in, I think that's beneficial for a clinic because they early on are exposed to all the different types, and they learn how to work with different types of hair. And so I think she's really done a great job of that. She's been doing hair transplantation for I think about 20 years.
Yeah,
maybe a little longer.
She's been in the box for a long time.
Yeah, and
that's
so
why I
think she's a great great choice for you.
And that's why I think, and again, I think this is important for everyone who's listening. Everyone, Turkey and India is in everybody's faces online. Mm-hmm. But a trip to if you're thinking about traveling, first of all, this is close, relatively. I mean, especially if you're on the East Coast. So a trip to the DR, it's it could be pretty nice if you're considering that type of cosmetic surgery tourism. And at the very least, you're going to be going to somebody who, I mean, I know that you speak Spanish, but who has a relative command of the English language. The people that are working in the office are able to communicate with you well. There's no translator needed if you're English speaking. So, and it's less expensive.
I was surprised because, like the people I've been talking to in their clinic speak very well English and they said, like 90% of their clients or patients are from the U.S. So I was kind of, relieved to know that.
Yeah.
But I do have a question in regards to the assessment from people from Dr. John Cole's office and Dr. Alba Reyes, because the assessment that I got from John Cole was, he told me like, oh, you can do, because I'm at Norwood, I think like 2. So I'm looking for, repair my hairline, and maybe add a little density on the frontal part.
Are you sure you're a Norwood 2? Because Norwood 2 is pretty much, unless you have a miniaturization in the hairline as well, and you have thinning behind it, maybe in the mid-anterior scalp. Norwood 2 is a pretty normal adult hairline.
No, 2 or 3 kind of. I'm thinning, in the frontal area, so my temples are very deep, a little, so.
Okay.
Haven't been happy for a long time.
So you're probably bordering more on a closer to a 3 if they're willing to perform surgery.
Right. So the assessment that I got from the doctors here, they said because I told them it was an online consultation, and they said we can do 1,000 grafts, and then there's like options where the doctor can just go and do as many grafts as he finds appropriate. But then with Dr. Alba Reyes, she said, we'll do 2,400 grafts. And I was like, well, that's kind of, because I'm like the previous caller where I got low density overall, so my donor zone is not the best, but it's not, bad.
What type of surgery? What type of surgery is Dr. Reyes recommending for?
FUE, which I'm open to do FUT if that's more convenient for me. But they didn't say anything about FUT. But once I go there in a month, if that's an option, if it's on the table and it's better for me, then I'll rock it.
Can you tell us about your hair?
Yeah.
Like not just the density, but tell us about the hair type. Is it straight, curly, coarse, fine,
wavy?
Okay. Okay.
A little wavy, thin. And I did a consultation with a doctor in Bogota, and she said through the pictures, she's like, you're not a good candidate for surgery, which I like that. But I think I was kind of like, I had like bed hair overall, and because I saw a video, Joel, that you posted where you were kind of like going through this guy who's, maybe had not a very dense zone area or whatever. But then I sent pictures to different doctors, and they said, yeah, you can have surgery. But yeah, it's kind of wavy, thin. So yeah, and I'm tan, so I kind of look like you, Joe, but like the Latino version.
My condolences. So, all right.
I actually think that's
and your
sexy,
age. How old are you?
35.
Hello? My name is Joe. He's 35. Okay, very good. Okay, so 35. Are you taking medication?
Yeah,
okay.
I've been on Finasteride
Okay, long-time
for a
Finasteride user. 35. Norwood 2-ish with some recessed temples. What's your family history like?
Well, my dad died when he was 40, so I saw some pictures of him, and he kind of looked like me, where he has like a huge forehead, very deep temples. But I didn't get to see, how far he would, how bald he would get after 40. But then
wait a minute. You just said you're like you just said you're like the Hispanic version of me. So what do you want to change your hair for? Just kidding. Sorry, go ahead with your grandfather.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm married. I got 2 kids, but my wife is like, you don't need that. But I'm like, it's been bothering me since I was like 22. So it's not about how you see me. It's about how I see myself, and I do not want to go bald.
Oh shit! Now she's wondering who else is in the picture. You're married. You got 2 kids. Why you want to make yourself look better? Who you talking to? Who you meeting?
For me, for myself.
But that's what she's thinking. She's like, who's he dealing with?
I think some people can.
Why are you working out so much? Who are you trying to impress?
I know, I know, right?
Yeah. But look, I think that look, you're 35. You've got this sight unseen, like just based on what you're telling me, not a lot of hair loss, and you just want to kind of deal with the hairline issue. You've been on Finasteride for quite a while. Your father's hair loss, 5 years older than you, wasn't much different. Maybe it's not such a bad idea, or maybe it's a fairly safe move because there's not going to be a lot of additional hair loss in the future. Speculation, obviously. But as far as the numbers go and what's available, different clinics will make different recommendations based on what they're comfortable with in their own environment. Some clinics will offer something that's more conservative. Some will be a bit more aggressive, talking about the numbers. And like in the case of Dr. Cole, he might have thought, well, I'm sure I can get 1,000, no problem, but he could probably use more. So let's just take each graft one by one to see how the donor holds up and what the risk benefit ratio turns out to be when I get to see him in person. And maybe Dr. Reyes saw something in your photos where she's like, oh yeah, I've worked on these guys 100 times before. I know what he needs. I know what he's got. Not a problem. Or you might get to Dr. Reyes' office. For all the great things I think about her, she's human. And she may, when you get to the office, she may be like, you know what, 1,500, I think that's probably safer. You never know. I've seen it happen, like clinics I've worked with and all kinds of other clinics. Never forget it's an estimate. It's not a promise.
Right. So you think they'll do that even though it's obviously financially not, it's not good for them to just, say, oh, we're going to do less.
Yeah, because first of all, they don't want to see, in general, a really good physician in this field, a caring physician, someone who cares about their reputation. They don't want to fuck anybody up. They don't want to get a bad review. And if they're ethical, they actually care about what's going on. And they also know that hair transplant surgery is not one and done. So if they treat you well the first time, they're going to make that money back on the back end eventually. You're going to come back for more. So the ethical docs will be very honest with you. And Joe's absolutely correct. I have known patients who have called the program very disappointed that when they got to the clinic said, you know what, we overestimated. This is really what you should have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that she did. Maybe in her hands and in her practice, she sees things that these other guys, and remember, you had online consultations that the other docs didn't see. Now, did you have consultations with the physicians themselves, or did you have consultations with their representatives?
With their representative, yeah. Most of the people that I did consultations with, there's no way to reach out to doctors. It's just people that they send the pictures to the doctors and then they just get back to you. But
right,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. You could always before you go through it, you could ask Dr. Reyes' office if. Say you'd pay for it even, that you'd love to have an online consultation with her just to ensure that you're not going to spend the time and take the time off and travel to make sure that this is really an accurate estimate.
I've thought about that too.
Use a Zoom consultation, some sort of live video.
Okay, I'll do that then.
Yeah. And I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do that for you. All right, Matt?
Okay.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you for taking my call.
Okay,
All right,
thanks.
you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck.
888-659-3727.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not so bad. It's good to be with you. I didn't realize I was on there. So if there's a delay, that's my fault, not yours.
No. I'm sorry. So who's this?
My name's Ryan. I'm calling from the UK.
Hey, Ryan, how are you, man?
Hello, Brian.
I'm good.
It's Ryan.
Good. Hi.
It's Ryan or Brian?
Yeah, Ryan. Ryan, no B.
Okay. See,
Got
there's
it.
something wrong
Got
with
it.
Joe today. There's something wrong with him. I don't know what it is.
What? You thought he said Brian too?
No, I thought he said Ryan. Ryan, what's up, man?
I did say Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan. It's Ryan.
What's
See?
up, man? Ryan, what can we do for you?
What you got?
So I have a kind of a query. Well, I'll give you the backstory first. I had a hair transplant about 3.5 months ago now. And it's a hair transplant that I had by a distinguished clinic, you could say. It's on Joe's list.
Who?
Actually,
Who?
Well, I'm tempted to. I won't say right now, and if you want me to say at the end, I will. But I'd rather not now. I had a few concerns of the transplant fairly quickly after I had it, which I started to try and dismiss as well. It's the swelling. When the swelling comes down, it looked normal, and then it's like when the scabbing comes down and comes off, it looked normal, and then it must be the redness that's making it look strange, and then so on. So I basically felt that the hairline was actually too low and slightly the wrong shape for me. And as I'm now, and I didn't shed very much hair. I maybe shed about 50% of the hair. So I've actually retained quite a lot of hair. There's a noticeable cosmetic difference and so on. But there's other little issues that have sort of come to light in that time. I've got grafts in the front that are definitely on the muscle. They move a bit when I raise my eyebrows. Not severe, not like your man Kyle Christie, but still a little bit too low. I've got along the front of the hairline that stick straight up and curl backwards. There's little issues of the transplant that are bothersome. They're not going to go away in time.
Ryan, let me ask you a question. Are you on a Bluetooth or you're on like AirPods?
I'm on speaker. Should I come off the speaker?
That would be great.
Please, yeah.
How's that? Is that better?
It's much better. Now we just have to straighten out Joe's situation, and then we'll all be good.
But basically, I've got some issues with the transplant that I think may require a correction, and I understand that to correct it would require removing grafts from the front, which I know is tricky at the best of times.
What did the clinic tell you?
Well, I haven't yet discussed it with them. I've been hanging on and so on, but that's the next step, obviously.
Well, you said
how long has it been since the surgery?
About 3.5 months. It'll be 4 months in about a week and a half, I think.
Okay. All right.
So there's,
there's
time, but
so the issue is it's too low, and
yeah, I believe so.
You said some of the grafts are misangled somehow, like they're standing up or at a bad angle.
Yeah,
what's going on with those?
They stick straight up and they sort of curl backwards. They're going in the wrong direction. They don't sit flush, as you would expect them to be.
Is that on the side of the hairline, like maybe on the right-hand side?
It's actually only one. It's from sort of the center to the left. One side is kind of fine, and then the other side starts to drift the other way.
Okay. All right. And you've not talked to the clinic about it, so
Not
they're
yet.
completely unaware.
Not yet.
Okay.
That is true.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, to answer your question, so you're asking about removing some grafts. What's the question about that?
Well, I suppose I've seen examples. I think you've presented some examples on your YouTube channel as well, where removing grafts from the hairline, where they're pluggy grafts and there's a lot of space between the grafts. That can be done. I've seen there's doctors like Ferraduni do it. I've seen some of the doctors you presented on your channel do it. Kyle Christie obviously had some removed. I only know who Kyle Christie is because of your channel, but I guess he's sort of a Brit, so maybe if there's any Brits watching, they'll understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So where the transplant is visibly bad, removing the graft seems possible, but my transplant at the front, other than those issues, is quite dense because the transplant has otherwise been done well and by a distinguished clinic. So I'm wondering if you know of, if it's possible to actually do the kind of graft removal that might be necessary when it's dense rather than when it's sparse. If that makes sense.
It does make sense, and like if there's a tool small enough to make an incision to place a graft properly, then there's a tool small enough to make it. Like think about your donor area, right? Your donor area is also quite dense. It's more dense than your hairline is that was placed, and they use a small. I assume this was a strip, actually, or was it FUE?
FUE.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, regardless of which procedure you had, in general, when physicians go into the donor area for FUE, they're using a punch to go in between existing hairs, and if they're doing a good job, they know what they're doing, then they're not going to damage those other hairs, and it's a non-issue. Same goes for a hairline removal. But what I've seen in a lot of cases, even Kyle's case, Kyle Christie's case, is when you go in to remove hairline grafts, it depends on how well they were placed to begin with. If they're really ugly grafts like Kyle Christie had from an amateur that really didn't know what they're doing and had no business doing surgery to begin with, then you're going to see cases like that where it can take 2 or even 3 passes of FUE to completely clear the field of all of those grafts, because a lot of times when they're put in there, they're stuffed in and they're maybe at a funky angle and they might be splayed out underneath, and so you got to use a really big punch to get them out, and you don't want to use a really big punch because it can leave more visible scarring. But when you're dealing with grafts that were supposedly placed in a more refined manner, density shouldn't have a real, it shouldn't be an encumbrance to that process of removal. So I think that there's still a chance that some will grow back, but they're not going to grow back as they were. They'll grow back thinner. Maybe instead of 2 hairs or 3 hairs, if it's a little further back into the hairline, it'll grow back as 1 hair because one of the parts of the follicle were missed and a hair shaft remained. I've seen that happen too. But ultimately, I mean, if you're talking about, keep in mind, like in Kyle Christie's case, he had like 1,500 grafts or 2,000 grafts taken out. You're probably talking about a lot less than that, maybe just 5 or 10 at most, I'm guessing.
Well, I mean, if we're talking, so for the right, it's nothing in the sort of realm of Kyle Christie in terms of bad aesthetics. I think if having reviewed, so in terms, there's 2 issues. One is some of the grafts at the wrong angle. I would suggest that's maybe 20, something like that.
Okay.
I'd a guess. Obviously, I've still got grafts that are under the surface of the scalp that haven't yet appeared. So who quite knows? But from what I can see, it's a couple of dozen, something like that. But I having reviewed old pictures and I've got grafts that obviously they move a little bit when I raise the eyebrows. I think maybe we've come too low by just in general across the hairline by maybe half to a full centimeter, which. Yeah, that's probably the main thing that concerns me is how do you go in and take away so many grafts when they're nicely packed without it being, obviously they're not going to be covered as they would on the donor area once you go back up.
Well, yeah, so you're talking about not just removing a few misangled grafts that are aesthetically offensive to you, but you're also talking about reducing the density or raising the hairline entirely. Half to a full centimeter. Is okay. So first off, I think I know who you're talking about because you said they're on my list of doctors and they're in the UK. Is that correct?
Oh, no, I'm from the UK, but they're not from the UK. I mean, they're pretty far from the UK.
Oh,
actually.
okay. Okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. So, yeah, I think it's, I mean, that's a different animal altogether because
who's the
doesn't
clinic?
work so well for that.
Tell us who it is.
Yeah, who's the clinic?
It was eugenics.
There you go.
Eugenics. Okay.
And I think
the
that
hairline's too low.
And I think that's important for everyone to know that we were stating it clearly that in the best hands, the very best hands in this industry, things happen. People could be unhappy, you know, and so I think this is an important story, and that's why, you know, we want you to tell us, even if they're part of what we do, who the clinics are, so consumers understand, who are listening, and potential patients understand that, well, this is the best of the best, and there's still people who have problems out there. So go ahead, Colin. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I was only hesitant to name them, having not spoken to them about this yet first. Otherwise, I completely agree about what you just said.
And that's very respectful, and I appreciate that. And it shows that you're a normal fucking person. But, you know, for it's true. But for the, you know, for the reasons that I just, you know, spoke about, and because we have so many people who are going to be listening to this eventually and who are listening now, people just have to know. I mean, this is cosmetic surgery. It's very real, and every day is different. And it's possible there was a different technician working on you that day that might not have placed the grafts that low, you know, otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, Joe. I figured I just wanted to get that out there.
No, I was also going to say that I think that I think it's also important for you to understand, and this isn't because it's eugenics that did the surgery. It doesn't matter what clinic did the surgery. The angulation issue, this is all sight unseen. Got to take your word for it. But when you're at 4 months, it can kind of resolve itself over the next several months because it's still early, and a lot of times at that early stage, the grafts themselves, they haven't really decided which direction they're going to be going in, and they can take on a mind of their own and then settle down at like 8 months, 9 months, 12 months to behave properly, I guess, and grow out in the proper direction. It may or may not be the case for you, but being 4 months, there is a likely impact that you'll see from just waiting, letting this sort itself out. As far as the height of the hairline, I can't I can't say that waiting will make any difference, because it won't. It's just a matter of your comfort level and what your aesthetic sense dictates what looks good to you and what doesn't. That said, is the hairline placement any different than what was drawn on you during your pre-op discussions? Like what's different from what you agreed to?
Well, that's probably a source of frustration for me, if I'm honest. I was never quite satisfied with the hairline, but I couldn't work when it was drawn, but I couldn't work out why. So I sort of ended up maybe what I should have said is, can we start again? But I didn't. So there's some. But there was something that never quite sat right with me about the hairline. But I haven't had a hairline for quite some time. And, you know, something that I probably regret doing is I spent years really researching hair transplants on and off. Your channel's been an important resource, so thank you for that. But what I hadn't spent time doing, and it seems so stupid now, is reviewing what my hair used to look like 10, 15 years ago. So when I went into
and you can't really do that,
design,
because it's not something that you should. Sorry for interrupting, but I think it's important that people listening to this understand. This is a great lesson to learn on two levels. One, I don't think it's, how do I put this? I don't think it's reasonable for most people to look back at what they used to have and look to having something similar. Because I think that as you age, it's better to have a hairline that has evolved naturally for someone your age, you know, adding 15 years on top of where you used to be and where your hairline used to be. It needs to be an organic process or an organic result, looking result, I guess. But I think the bigger lesson to be learned here is, and I'm not faulting you for this, because I understand the situation. You're sitting in there, you're not feeling quite right about something, but there's something that's holding you back from speaking up. Like you're looking back, hindsight 2020, I should have said something. I should have spoken up. I should have done this. I should have done that. But a lot of us know this when we're actually in that position, but we're kind of locked into not saying anything, or or we don't want to speak up too much because we're being timid, and it's what's the word I'm looking for, Spencer? It's intimidating.
Good word.
To be sitting there with all of these experts moving around, doing their stuff, getting ready for the surgery on you, and so you're kind of, I don't know, you're kind of intimidated, not because of anything they're doing on purpose, but you're intimidated to speak up. Is that an accurate description of how you felt?
It's in the right ballpark. I think what I found myself, when I think back, when I was looking at the hairline, I started doubting myself. I'm not the hair transplant expert. I don't draw hairlines all day long. So, while I was thinking I'm not sure, I'm also thinking, well, maybe I just, I'm not seeing what they're seeing, or, and then we started nudging around with little things, and you end up down the rabbit hole, and before you know it, you're just going, yeah, okay, I guess we'll just go with that. And, it's a little bit frustrating. What you said earlier about not being able to recapture your hairline from years gone by, yeah, I agree with. I actually think, my hairline's actually now lower than what it was, which is also.
I got to tell you, man, and I hear the frustration. First of all, you're probably repairable, but the point is, you need to reach out to the clinic. Who was the physician who actually was in surgery with you?
The slits were made by Dr. Arica, and then it was a combination of Dr. Arica and Dr. Priyadeshani.
Okay. You absolutely need to speak to them.
Yeah,
and
I certainly intend to.
Yeah, and it's something that, it's sooner rather than later. And this way they can help you to make an assessment as far as what went wrong, really give them a good, try to do it via video, really give them a good look at what you're talking about, the fact that, honestly, you shouldn't be able to move your grafts if you're moving your brow. Just saying.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Joe?
It depends. It's kind of a tricky question.
Well, your head. Look, my head moves, but your grafts shouldn't be really moving.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's not
again,
loads,
it's
not loads, but it's not loads of them. But it's enough that indicates to me that it's too low.
Well, it's possible because as I'm moving, I'm really moving. I can kind of see, the comb over moving a little bit, maybe. Well, not really.
Is my wig moving?
Yeah.
No.
Yours actually is. Let me see that.
Well,
not really. Your ears are moving though.
Yeah, I can make them move up or down.
Yeah.
So, caller, sorry, I forgot your name. Feel free to send me some photos if you want. Like I'd be happy.
Ryan.
Brian, sorry.
Ryan.
It's Ryan. I'd be happy to have a look at your photos because I'd like to see what it is you're dealing with that you're saying is too low. And I'll give you my honest opinion. But like Spencer said, reach out to the clinic and let them know how you feel and see if you can get a video chat going with Dr. Arica and see what they say. I'm sure they'll be supportive.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
They'll definitely be supportive.
Yeah. That's one. I'm not one of the guys that hasn't done their research. One of the reasons I picked this clinic is I know they're generally regarded as quite ethical, and they do repairs. So probably not in the worst hands. But where would I be sending some pictures to, Joe, if you don't mind?
You can send those, admin, ADMIN, at hairtransplantmentor.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
And if you could send them an image right now, he'll put it up on screen.
Oh, I don't think I've got any images that would quite capture what I'm talking about, but or necessarily what's on my screen.
Look, I forgot to give it a shot, man. We're doing a little show here.
You're happy to see them too, though, Spencer. I don't mind that.
Okay, well, just give him permission in writing, and he can show it to me. All right, brother.
Well, I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on that, and if it might be redeemable. It sounds like you think that it could be.
Just from to what you're describing, I do, but we'd have to see it. And listen, Ryan with an R. I'm sorry that you've dealt with this, but it doesn't seem like your particular situation is a really difficult fix. I'm just sorry that you have to go through the process and you're unhappy with the original result.
Yeah, I'm not like completely down about it or anything like that. I mean, there's things that I like about it. The donor area is great. The result seems to be coming in quite quick. It's not perfect, but it's not terrible. So, but you travel halfway across the world, you kind of want it to be as good as it can be.
Sure.
Of course.
I get that, man. It's kind of like, I was going to say something about sex, but that's not funny. Anyway, listen, Ryan, call us. Let us know what happens. But I'm telling you, man, and send Joe your pictures. Call them as soon as possible. Just text them and say, look, just got to talk about my results. I'm kind of unhappy with what I'm seeing, and I wanted to speak to you guys about it. And they'll be very good about it.
Will.
All right?
Cool. I appreciate your feedback. Thank you very much.
Man. Good luck. Take care.
All right. Thanks for calling, Ryan.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
888-659-3727. I just ran out of disk space, Joe. Good thing you're recording this. I got an hour and 44 minutes of good stuff. Let's take another call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Caller, what's up? Caller, you're on the air. You got like a second to say hello. I hear the guy. Too bad. Sorry, call back. Phone number is 888-659-3727. I want to point this out because no one else is going to point this out. And people feel uncomfortable pointing this out. But that's 2 complaints in the last day. Not major, but that's 2 in the last day from clinics that are considered to be some of the top clinics in the world. That is the reality. Now, that could be 1 out of 1,000 patients, but that is the reality of going into this process. If you don't have your eyes wide fucking open, then you're not a candidate for surgery.
100%. And I wanted to, I meant to make this point, and I was talking to Ryan about this. It's like, when you're sitting there and you got all these people working on you, before even surgery starts, and you see something that doesn't quite make sense to you, a lot of people, they will kind of clam up, and they'll be thinking it, but they won't speak it.
Right.
I can't stress enough, you have to speak up. You have to speak up. I don't care if it's because, you got to scratch your ass and they're not letting you do it. Stand up and scratch your ass. Like, if there's something that you're not comfortable with, you have to speak up. Because if you don't, 4 months later, you too could be in a situation where you're like, God, I wish I'd spoken up. I wish I'd said something. I wish I had asked them why this is supposed to be, what I should want as compared to something else. And honestly, I think that if you go to a top clinic and they do something as far as the design that you aren't sure about, then I think that you owe it to yourself to actually ask them why it makes sense. Why is this better for me than any other design? And because they're a top clinic, they're going to stop what they're doing, and they're going to tell you why. It may mean an extra half hour that they have to stay around the office. I've heard this complaint. The longer that we have to talk to the patient, the longer we have to stay into the evening. And I hate that attitude, because if they got questions leading up to this, and you're in the planning section of the surgery, and they're not feeling comfortable with what you're doing, maybe the clinic didn't do their job in educating the patient 100%.
And if the response is,
I'm not saying that's what happened here.
And if the response is, we've been doing this for a long time, we know what we're talking about, so trust me, this is where your hairline should be. You take a breath, take a beat, and think about walking out. Forget about your deposit.
Yeah.
If they're unwilling to speak to you about your concerns. Now, I'm not talking about the guys that are going in there telling doctors how many grafts per square centimeter they're supposed to be getting, and that they want their temporal points at this particular angle and that shit. And that's over the top, man. That's extreme.
Yeah.
But if you have any reservations about something as simple as this hairline, especially if you think it's too low, then that is a valid concern. And if that concern is not met, to get the fuck out of there.
I have heard that very few times in my career. In my 20-year career, I've heard it's too low from a top clinic very few times. And I've heard it's too thick maybe less than 5 times.
Yeah.
So this is surprising to me.
And, this isn't a let me see the manager situation. You're not being a pain in the ass. This is your life that you're talking about. Anyway, let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hi, yes. My name is John. I'm calling from Chicago.
John from Chicago, welcome.
Hello, John.
Hey. Yeah, so I'm actually 32. I just started recently listening to you guys, I want to say 4 months ago. So it looks like my journey has started. Yeah, of course. You guys are great.
We are great, aren't we? Just kidding. Thank you.
Yeah. So my journey started about 5 months ago, and I've just been really diffusely thinning. And the diffuse thinning has gone from the crown, and I've gotten multiple consultations from a couple of hair transplant places. They suggested that I go on medical therapy, but I had some pretty bad side effects from Finasteride.
How long were you on Finasteride?
I was on Finasteride for about 2 weeks.
All right, and so what were the bad side effects?
Just really bad depression, erectile dysfunction. And it was quite a bit.
Okay, all right. Well, those are the big ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got off Finasteride, and then naturally, I tried microdosing even, and the depression was still there, and ED was still there as well. So I'm kind of left at a rock and a hard place at this point because the diffuse thinning is continuing. Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, have you considered, Joe, I don't know what that noise is, or where that's coming from and why you're having that, but you're disturbing the rest of the class.
I'm sorry, is it better now?
No, it's not you, it's Joe. Joe's been fucking up all day.
It's something that happens every broadcast, at least once. There's like a lot of static comes in, and the volume pumps up about 5 times louder, and it makes my ears bleed, so I have to take them off. You're fine, though, caller.
Yeah. So
okay, great.
So as far as medical treatment is concerned, have you considered trying a topical finasteride preparation?
I have considered that. I'm just not sure where to kind of grab that besides Hims.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, I'm going to be clear. Hims is putting out, and again, I have nothing against the company, they're putting out a topical spray, which to me makes very little sense as far as it really getting to where it needs to get. It's being marketed in a way that you just kind of spray your hair or spray the thinning areas like you would with hairspray. But you kind of have to look at the analogy of, and I was actually speaking to somebody about this yesterday, and he gave a good analogy that, once a topical is put in, it's kind of like rain in a forest, right? So first it hits the leaves of the tree, then it hits the branch of the tree, then it's got to hit, it's got to somehow make its way to the ground. The best way to do that with any of these topicals is to have a really good applicator, part your hair, it just doesn't make sense to me. And, I know a lot of people think it's sexy. I was actually speaking to a urologist about this who asked me, what I thought about this new topical finasteride. First of all, I don't know where the finasteride is coming from, and I don't love the way it's being, or the application process. So I just wanted to put that out there. Nothing against Hims, doing a great job. They reintroduced, them and Keeps reintroduced the use of finasteride in men who would never even consider using it. Kind of changed the game. There are some companies out there, some doctors who are making their own concoctions currently, who I think are doing a good job. And Joe, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with what you said, because I'm even starting to wonder about the differences between topicals that are more of a liquid form and some that are more of a gel or a cream form.
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about or even ask about is, okay, it's topical, but what's better for getting through the hair I have down to the scalp?
Right.
And I've been thinking about it because I'm using topical as well, and I like it because it also acts as a good styling agent, but I'm starting to second guess that because I need to keep it on my scalp for at least as long as my hair dries. And then by the time my hair dries, I can't really style it. So I'm thinking, well, if I'm doing it before it dries, because it's more beneficial for styling, how much of an effect am I getting? And how much is actually getting to the scalp? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that if it was a thinner formulation, it might work better to getting down to the scalp if I'm able to massage it through the hairs that I'm using. And I think that with the spray you're talking about, that's fine because it's still liquid, and as long as you massage it in, more of it will get to the scalp as opposed to
but also
like a gel or a cream.
More of it's also going to get on your hair than on your scalp. You really have to part your hair and whatever. So I would agree with what Joe's saying. This is a nuance that people don't really think about. I think something that is more of a liquid, something that dries quickly, is probably the way to go. And I think using the traditional type of a dropper situation is probably the way to go. There are, I think Alan Bauman has a product. I know that Joseph Yeager has a product. I know that
Alviramani has a product.
They have a product, yeah. So you can look into those guys and see what you like best.
Okay, got it. So I probably shouldn't hold my breath when it comes to a cure for balding anytime soon.
Well, you'll be the first to know. Because when you come to the show, it's just going to say "Gone Fishing."
Oh, really?
So, but I will say that there are plenty of people who have had significant or severe adverse side effects from oral finasteride who are getting good results from topical and different topical preparations with finasteride. So there is hope there as far as really getting on medical treatment before you consider having a hair transplant.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I know you guys just listed off a bunch of doctors, so do I just contact them directly, or how do I open that channel?
Yeah, I would just contact them directly.
Directly, yeah.
Just go to their website.
Got it.
Take a look at what their products are, and you can contact them.
Prepare to pay for consultation, because you got to have a consultation for them to be able to prescribe it to you. And a lot of doctors will charge you a fee for their time to examine your hair and write a prescription for whatever the product is. It's perfectly reasonable, but just be aware of that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, man. Listen, good luck. Let us know how you do.
Right.
Thanks all.
And I want to make it clear to all the doctors who are listening out there, these are just the names that came up in my head. There are other doctors out there that have products as well. I think what Joe just spoke about is pretty significant that no one really talks about. If it's more viscous, is it going to be more difficult for you to use? Some people like that, that concept, especially if, they want to use it to partially style their hair. And some people don't. So really, it's your choice.
And I think a lot of it has to do with how much hair you have in the area that you're trying to revive to begin with. Like, I'm trying to maintain the sides and the back of my scalp, and with all the hair transplant surgery I've had, I've got enough hair to where it's difficult. But if I had significantly less hair in the areas I'm concerned about, then it wouldn't be so much of an issue. Like any we'll say format of topical, be it liquid or some sort of gel or cream or whatever, would be most likely equal.
Right.
As far as the interference from hair. The carrier mechanism, I can't speak to that in such a
and I didn't mention
Hassan.
Victor Hassan has a product, so there's a lot of doctors out there that are making their own products. You have to kind of figure out what you think is best for you. But I'm still not a fan of the spray idea, and maybe I'm incorrect about that. But I think that hair, if the guys who are really in hair believed that a atomizer was the best way to do it, that's what they would be producing. It's the companies that really aren't involved in hair.
Yeah, the best delivery would be a mesotherapy type of deal where every few months you go get a bunch of needles injected into the area of concern. That way you don't have to worry about any sort of interference with the full dosage getting to where you want it to be.
That's true, but the problem is there's a relatively short half-life.
There's always problems.
Relatively short half-life for these drugs. Even for me, that takes it about once every 4 or 5 days. People are always like, well, the half-life's only, whatever, what is it, 48 hours, 72 hours, or less than that. And, how are you maintaining the hair that you have? And, you have to explain that it's really about maintaining your DHT levels. They really don't start to rise to baseline for about 2 weeks. That's a very slow process. So you just kind of want to hit it on a regular basis, like whack-a-mole, sadly. But, if you keep hitting it down, then you have a chance of maintaining. Do you want to take another call?
Gotta go.
All right.
We can do a quick one. We can do a quick one.
All right. Got a full board. Joe's got to go. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Oh, dude, this is bad, man. What's going on? Are you calling from
He's on the train.
Train?
Hello?
Hello, caller.
Hello, this is Sid. Can you guys hear me?
We can, but you have a lot of background noise. You want to speak into your phone, get off the speaker?
All right. Hey, guys, can you hear me any better?
Yes, much better. Well,
much better.
Where are you?
Hello, can you guys hear me any better?
Yes. Where are you?
Hi, this is Sid. I'm actually driving away to Houston from Austin.
All right, close your windows.
Okay.
I'm sorry, guys, but the windows are shut and everything.
I mean, we're having problems hearing you. All right. Hey, caller, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, hi, guys. How you doing?
Okay.
Hello. Good.
Okay. What the hell?
What's up?
Yes, so, oh, Spencer, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Who's this?
Oh, because I hear another voice in the... Okay, anyway. It looks like the lines are crossed. But anyway, so this is Gorilla. How you doing?
Gorilla.
Hi.
How you
What's
doing?
up, man?
Where are you calling from again?
Doing good. Doing good. I'm calling from New York. I just wanted to ask about the, when it comes to anything in the pipeline in terms of breakthroughs. Is there anything that you can say that shows promise, that pops out in your mind that you can suggest that we focus on presently? No.
Nope.
Okay.
Not a thing. I mean, there's Stemson, who's they're working hard. They got some really good funding for their potential cellular product. I'm keeping an eye on them, but there's really nothing. There's you can hear some scuttlebutt online about some stuff that everyone's going to concentrate on, but I wouldn't waste my time concentrating on anything at this point, or waiting.
I see. Last question. For thinning hair, not hair that's necessarily bald, but thinning, would stem cells be a good idea? What do you guys think?
No one even knows.
And what are the risks involved with it?
No one even understands what are stem cells. What is stem cell therapy for hair loss? where are the stem cells being provided from? How are they actually, are you talking about exosomes? Are you talking about stem cells? And I ask you this question because very few people can really give you an answer, especially those who are promoting stem cell therapy for hair loss.
Spencer, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean stem cells. I meant PRP. Really sorry about that. Sorry.
Right. You don't need to apologize, man.
Yeah.
No need to apologize. And the reason I say these things the way that I say them is really not just for you, but for our listeners to understand that, people are promoting all kinds of bullshit online and you have no idea what they're necessarily talking about, and neither do they. I'm a believer in PRP, the right PRP for the right patient. And, not all PRP is created equal, and you need to go to someone who has a tremendous amount of experience and who has a lot of success stories with PRP. So, and there's not a lot of them out there. I always send people I talk about a guy he's a PhD, and he's a nurse practitioner, and his name is, I think he's a nurse practitioner, or PA. His name is Joe Greco. He's down in Sarasota, Florida. I've known people who've gotten some really significant results from the type of PRP he offers, and he's one of the OG, or if not the OG, PRP guys who really did a lot of the groundbreaking research and kind of introduced it to the hair world. There are many doctors in the IHRS who are now providing PRP, and I've seen some people with some decent results. I know that I've seen Alan Bauman get good results. I've seen Jerry Cooley get good results, and some others. I'm not going to name everyone in the IHRS, but it's hit or miss. You have to understand that.
Really? Wow. I didn't know that. Hit or miss. I thought there was a higher chance of a good outcome from PRP than hair transplantation.
Where would you hear that from?
What I would gather, what I would see online.
Okay. And I understand that. Wow. All I could tell you guys, all you guys, is forget about what you read online. You have to. I mean, you need to read stuff online to get basic information, but you cannot necessarily trust the opinions or the information or the content that's being produced and put out there, or the conversations on whether it's, Reddit or a message forum or whatever it is. I mean, you just don't know where this information is coming from, and that's really important for you to understand. It's great to gather the information, but, here's what we have. We have finasteride, we have minoxidil, we have dutasteride, we have topical preparations of all of the above, right? We have platelet-rich plasma therapy. You have to make sure that you're actually getting platelet-rich plasma therapy and not platelet neutral or platelet poor, which most doctors who are performing it have no way to assess that. Some do. Mm-hmm. And then you have a handful of doctors who are able to do really good hair transplant surgery. Currently, that's all we have for hair, and great hair pieces. But no one calls us about their hair pieces on this show.
So, Spencer, how can I, for example, a consumer, would find out and assess what clinic provides the best or the highest quality PRP that I can possibly obtain?
Well, you want to ask them if they're able to measure the platelet-rich concentration after they prepare it for you. You want to ask them how they prepare the PRP, what kit they use, if they're using an FDA-cleared kit or not, an open kit or a closed kit. And if they're able to answer all those questions easily, then you're going to someone who knows what they're talking about. If they're like, let me check on that, that's the place you don't want to go to.
Right.
All right, Matt?
Gotcha. Got it.
All right. So good luck. Joe has to go. Let us know. Yep. Let us know.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Spencer, man. You guys are the best, man.
No worries.
You got it.
You guys are like brothers to me.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate that, and I wish you the best of luck. And don't jump into anything. Just continue to do your research. All right.
All right. No problem. I'll talk to you guys next week.
Okay. All right.
Take care.
All right, Gorilla. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Something I never thought I would
Real
say.
Quick,
all right, Gorilla.
I want to answer Brad B, after you were saying don't trust only use online stuff for basic information, he says, you guys are online too, LOL. Yeah, but we also tell you that we're not the end-all be-all for information. You can get your basic information from us, but you use your fucking common sense. Like, that's what it comes down to, and we present pros and cons so that you can decide. But it's pretty basic stuff that we're talking about. Use your head when you're making a distinction between one treatment versus another, one clinic versus another, one doctor versus another.
And also,
or
maybe
just a safe place to start.
Maybe I should be clear. The majority of information that you receive online are coming from either influencers or anonymous users or people who are trying to sell a product or a service. We are authorities as far as our expertise and our time on tissue, so to speak, in this field. We know where all the bodies are buried, and we've heard all the stories. I've been doing this for almost 25 years. Joe is close to that. So, we speak at the truth. That's it. And that's the way that it is. I see Dimitri saying that there's a whole bunch of different treatments that stop androgenetic hair loss dead in its track for the rest of our existence, but they are just too hardcore. All right. Possibly if he decides to get castrated early enough, it might, and again, that's not a suggestion. Yes, there are some extremely hardcore things that could stop hair loss. But, if you want to maintain being a man, then I would say we really don't have a lot of choices.
But I think it's safe to assume that when we're talking about this kind of thing, we're not talking about the extreme options that are out there, because like you said, they're not viable. So why should we talk about them?
And I'm going to agree with Dimitri. I think from what I've seen, and I took a look the other day, I told Joe about Kevin Mann. He does seem to be essentially on the same page. He's telling the truth about Finasteride. He's telling you guys not to fucking be scared shitless about it. He exposes or talks about what he believes to be a lot of the bullshit out there. So relax, Dimitri. Fucking take a chill pill. I like Kevin. I think he seems like a really good dude, and he has a very unique style and approach. So bravo to him. Jesus.
And on that note,
these fucking people, man, unbelievable. All right, guys.
We'll give out the websites.
Give out the websites.
Let's see. 20th anniversary of my repair surgery started documenting on hairtransplantmentor.com. It's the website with my personal story, my personal experience, world's largest hair loss and hair restoration glossary and terms and definitions, and also has a list of some pretty great doctors that I've personally looked at and based on my own criteria of what I think is worth considering, I've added them to my website, and in exchange for a monthly fee, of course. Full disclosure. They're all IAHRS members as one of the baseline standards for inclusion. And what is IAHRS? It's the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. It's the original safe place to start looking for vetted and qualified doctors for your hair transplant surgery, or even to talk about non-surgical options such as Propecia, minoxidil, PRP, everything that's out there. You can talk to them about it. They'll have a pretty good answer for you. Beyond that, we've got American Hair Loss.
I want to add something. It's also the only organization that's the only organization, society, association in the hair transplant world that is endorsed by both Consumer Reports, Consumer's Digest, and WebMD. Nothing else out there exists. Sorry, other guys. That's just the reality of the situation. They hate when I say that, but it's important for the consumer to know. Also, by a lot of state medical boards and different countries' medical, what are they called? Not authorities, but, well, they're kind of like medical boards, but like Dubai and, other places like that recognize the IHRS. Go ahead, Joe.
Mm-hmm. American Hair Loss Association, again, the only referenced or the most referenced online resource authority. When big media has some sort of hair loss or hair restoration story they want to talk about, they always reference American Hair Loss Association, such as spoken about and American Hair Loss Association, such as that, things like that. What else is there? My YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever, and you're not watching us, you can watch us live every Friday on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/hairtransplantmentor. And of course, our friend at hairlosscure2020.org, great supporter of this channel, and he's embedding this broadcast on his website. If you want to know anything about non-surgical methods, such as anything coming down the pipeline for treatments and cures and things like that, that's a great resource to go to. Again, that's hairlosscure2020.org or .com. Sorry, .com.
apethegentleman.com for archives of UK, the Bald Truth UK broadcast with co-host Spencer Speck Stevenson. We had to bump him last 2 weeks for Joe to do the live U.S. show.
Thank you, Spencer Specs.
He was very gracious about that. And I would like to
we'll be back to normal next week, by the way.
I would like to take this opportunity to wish Joseph R. Tillman. What's your middle initial?
I'm not giving my middle initial out.
Okay.
Mr.
Joseph Tillman, a very happy 20th anniversary. And you know what? You changed a lot of people's lives because you had the courage to help yourself. So I think everyone is very appreciative of that.
Thank you.
For most people.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
You got a lot of haters out there too, but you know, that's the way it goes.
I love them all.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, guys, until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you.